Now let's focus specifically on the features and functionality, license allocation, and process for building a standard call center. All of the features that are included with the basic call center solution are also included with the standard call center solution. Starting with the greetings and announcement features, each feature that was available in basic is also available in standard and are shown on your screen. They include customizable greetings and announcements, options for entrance messages, comfort messages, music and video on hold, location in queue or estimated wait time, and file chaining. Now let's review the call routing options available in the standard call center solution. The features that are available in a standard call center that are not available in a basic call center are listed under alternate routing options on your screen. The first new routing option is the ability to handle bounce calls, meaning treatment of calls which are offered to an agent but not answered. In other words, the agent was signed in as available but did not answer the call. In a standard call center, a bounce call can skip to the next agent or immediately be forwarded based on a configured policy. Release 17 introduces an enhancement to the bounce call settings, and that is to manage calls that an agent puts on hold. Option 1 would alert the agent when the call has been on hold for longer than the configured number of seconds. And Option 2 would be to bounce the call back into the queue when the call has been on hold for longer than a configured number of seconds. And each option can be configured separately. Another routing policy available in a standard call center is the ability to create rules for handling stranded calls. A stranded call is a call in a queue that has no agents currently staffed. An agent is said to be staffed in a queue if the agent has joined the queue and is not in the signed out state. When the last agent staffed in a queue signs out, then all calls that are currently waiting in the queue become stranded. The handling options include leaving the call in queue, applying the busy treatment that is configured for the call center, or transferring the call to a specified number. With a standard call center, agents can set their availability state to manage when they are available to accept calls. The availability states are sign in, available, unavailable, wrap up, and sign out. They can set their availability using either their BroadWorks user web portal, soft keys on some IP phone sets, or the BroadWorks call center agent client. Another capability with the standard call center is the ability for the agents and supervisors to use the BroadWorks call center desktop clients. The clients provide an efficient, intuitive desktop interface to allow agents to manage incoming and active calls, change ACD state, escalate calls to supervisors, and manage various service settings like joining or unjoining call centers and setting rules for automatic ACD state transitions after calls are complete. They also have access to various online directories that support click-to-dial functionality. The Supervisor desktop client supports all the capabilities of the agent client, plus the additional functions of monitoring the real-time status of the agents and the queues. Using the desktop client, a supervisor can view active calls with agents, change agent ACD states, and barge in or monitor active calls. They can also monitor calls that are queued waiting for agents and manipulate calls that are in the queue. The desktop client in Release 17 includes additional enhancements to this client. However, those will not be covered during this video. Please contact your BroadSoft account representative for more details. A standard call center also introduces the ability to run real-time and historical reports on the agents and call center queues. The two reporting options available are the basic reports, which are available to a call center administrator using the BroadWorks web portal and via an email daily report, and enhanced reports, which are available via the call center desktop clients. Agents can run an agent activity report, and supervisors can run a variety of agent and queue reports that help them monitor the performance of the call center. Distinctive ringing options are also available in the standard call center solution. And finally, Release 17 supports a shared workspace environment, which applies to call centers that operate with multiple shifts of agents. Leveraging the BroadWorks hoteling feature, an agent can automatically associate themselves with a desktop phone when they sign in to the BroadWorks call center client. Standard call centers can have up to 50 calls in queue. Shortly, we are going to build a standard call center in the BroadWorks web portal. However, let's make sure we understand the required and optional licenses needed for creating a standard call center. First, we will need to assign each member of the call center a service pack. Next, we will need to assign each member of the call center a call center standard license. As an option, we know that standard call center agents and supervisors can also be assigned the BroadWorks agent or BroadWorks supervisor license, which will allow them to use the desktop client. Other optional licenses might include user services applied directly to the call center, such as Call Forward Always, Call Forward Busy, Call Forward Selective, Messaging, and Call Logs. You may also consider assigning the calling name retrieval service to the call center. And an optional group service would be an auto attendant. Auto attendants provide callers with multiple options to help them reach the appropriate group of agents. As mentioned previously, identifying the scope of your call center prior to provisioning will result in a more efficient and successful deployment. For this exercise, we will assume this site handles two types of calls, claims and referrals. And let's call this customer Health eSolutions. They would like callers to be greeted by an automated attendant and have the ability to choose which department they want to talk to. Option 1, to report a claim, or Option 2, for referrals. They would also like their agents to have the ability to be trained to take calls for either department and be able to easily join and unjoin both call centers. They have a total of 20 agents, 10 that are currently trained in claims, and 10 that are currently trained in referrals. They have 2 supervisors that manage the entire group of agents and would like those supervisors to be able to monitor and run reports on both the referrals and claims call centers. This exercise actually entails building 2 call centers, one for claims and one for referrals. But let's take a quick inventory of the licenses required for the call centers before we get started. We will need 22 user service packs, 20 call center standard licenses, 20 BroadWorks agent licenses, and 2 BroadWorks supervisor licenses. They have requested that overflow calls be routed to voicemail boxes specific to each call center type. So we will also need to assign 2 voice messaging user licenses along with 1 auto attendant, which are both group services licenses. Next, we are going to transition to the BroadWorks web portal and build the claims call center for Health eSolutions following the 4 steps identified previously in this video. Let's get started. We are currently signed in to the Health eSolutions group. This group has already been assigned users, and for training purposes, we're only going to be adding the licenses that are associated with the call center. There will be a few best practices discussed during this video, but for more information on how to provision services or features outside the scope of setting up a call center, please contact the BroadSoft representative responsible for your account. Now, using the 4 steps, we will start by assigning the call center services at the group level. Click Resources, then Services. Then select the service pack you are going to be assigning to your call center users. As a best practice, you should consider creating service packs specifically for users that will be assigned to call centers that include all the telephony services and the appropriate call center licenses and client licenses. For example, you could create a basic agent, standard agent, premium agent, and supervisor service pack. However, for this video, I've created 1 telephony services service pack and called it the Office Service Pack. This is to illustrate that the call center licenses are assigned at the user level. So let's check the Office box and assign the call center licenses separately. Now scroll down to User Services, and let's check the call center standard. We're going to limit the number of licenses to be assigned to this group. This can always be changed later and doesn't affect your inventory of licenses until you actually assign them to the users or the group. Since we know there are only 20 call center users at Healthy Solutions, let's limit this to 20. Then check the BroadWorks agent, and let's limit that to 20 as well. We also need to select the BroadWorks Supervisor, and limit this to 2. There are several additional user services you may want to consider assigning to your call center. Those may include Call Forward Always, Call Forward Selective, Call Forward Busy, Voice Messaging User, Basic or Enhanced Call Logs, and Calling Name Retrieval. And because this is a standard call center and we will be assigning a supervisor, we will also want to include the Directed Call Pickup with Barge-in service so that the supervisors can barge in on agents' calls. Let's select that service now. And limit that to 2. Let's also select the Calling Name Retrieval service. In Release 17, this service can be assigned to the call center and enables a more efficient processing of the calling name retrieval in BroadWorks. They are also going to route their overflow calls to the call center voicemail, so we need to include Voice Messaging User, quantity of 1. And because Healthy Solutions will be using an auto attendant to route calls to the call center group, we need to check the auto attendant box under Group Services, and let's limit this to 1. If you wanted to have multiple levels of options for the user or caller, then you would assign additional auto attendant licenses for each set of options. Next, let's click Apply, and then OK. Now we have confirmed that those licenses have been assigned to the group, and we will be able to provision according to the scope of this call center. Now we can tackle step 2, which is to assign the licenses to the call center users. Go back to the Profile page for the group and click Users. Then click Search to see a list of available users. We'll select Allison Beeler. She's going to be a call center agent. Click Assign Services. Then select the Office Service Pack. Click Add. Next, select the BroadWorks agent. Click Add. And the Call Center Standard. And click Add. Next, click Apply, and then OK. We have now assigned the Call Center Standard Agent License and the Desktop Client License to Allison Beeler, and she can be assigned to any standard or basic call center that you create. You would follow the exact same procedures for the remaining call center users. For training purposes, those users have already been provisioned with these licenses. Next, we need to address the call center supervisors. And we'll start with Will Evans. Click Users, click Search, and let's select Will Evans. Click Assign Services, then select the Office Service Pack and click Add. Select the BroadWorks Supervisor and click Add. And because Will need to have the ability to barge in on agent calls, we can select the Directed Call Pickup with Barge-in service and assign it to Will. Click Add. Next, click Apply, and then OK. And we have now assigned the appropriate call center supervisor licenses to Will Evans. Moving on to step 3, which begins by building the profile of your call center, assigning phone numbers and extensions, assigning agents, supervisors, setting passwords, uploading announcements, and configuring messaging settings. Go to the profile page of the group, click Services, then click Call Center. You'll see the Add Standard button and the Add Basic button on your screen. Because once you assign standard licenses, you then have the ability to create both basic and standard call centers within the group. You will also see the Add Call Center Wizard button. You can create your call center by either clicking the Add Standard button and manually going through each page to configure your call center, or the Add Call Center Wizard to let BroadWorks guide you through the setup process. If you click the Add Call Center Wizard, it will step you through the profile, addresses, and agent screens. This simplifies the workflow for setting up a call center. For this exercise, we will manually build this call center. So let's click Add Standard. For training purposes, the profile information is displayed on the screen, and we will be building the claims call center. When naming your call centers, it's best to use a standard naming convention for the call center ID and calling line ID. Next, select the department, if applicable. For this example, we will keep the setting at None. Then select the group policy. We're going to set this to Uniform. Then select the preferred codec. We're going to leave this at None. This option will force the prompts and hold media to use the specified codec. Next, enter the max number of queue calls that you want to have in the queue at any given time. The max is 50 for standard call centers. When this number is reached, the call center will follow the overflow policies defined in Overflow settings. Healthy Solutions has requested that calls are routed to voicemail if they reach the queue limit. Setting the queue size may be very different for different customers, but we're going to set this to 50 for Healthy Solutions. The play ringing when offering a call setting enables the calling party to hear ringing when the call is ringing an available agent's device. We're going to keep this setting enabled. When disabled, the caller will continue to hear music on hold until the agent actually answers the call. The Enable Video Support box will allow the video option to be enabled for each type of greeting or announcement. Let's check that box. Next, you have an option to enable or disable the Escape from Queue option and the ability to set the preferred escape digit. This is the digit the caller presses to manually escape from the queue. The default is 0. However, it can be configured to any number. We'll leave it at 0 since that is what most callers expect. Now, a couple of important points about the escape option. 1. If you enable the feature and use the system default message for the entrance or comfort greeting, then you will need to leave this digit at 0 because the default greeting assumes you've used the 0 digit. 2. The call will be routed to the call center's busy treatment destination, which may be the call forward busy destination or voice messaging. So you need to assign and configure one of those services for the call center if you want to use this option. Otherwise, the caller will hear a fast busy signal when they enter that digit when waiting in queue. We're going to enable this option for Healthy Solutions. Now we need to select a few agent settings. The setting Allow Agents to Join Call Centers is designed to either allow or restrict the agents from joining the call center from their web portal or desktop client. When disabled, only the administrator can change their join setting. When enabled, the agent can join or unjoin from their web portal screen or from the call center desktop client. We're going to keep this setting disabled. Allowing call waiting on agents. If this option is selected, a new ACD call can be presented to them while they are on another call, meaning they will hear a beep in their ear if a new ACD call is presented to them. We're going to keep this feature disabled as well. It takes advantage of the call center's ability to present the call to someone that is available to take the call right away. The Enable Calls to Agents in Wrap-Up state will allow agents to be presented with a new ACD call even when they are in the wrap-up state. We're also going to leave this setting disabled. The Enable Maximum ACD Wrap-Up Timer setting gives administrators the ability to control the amount of time an agent can be in the ACD wrap-up state. We're going to enable this feature and set the maximum ACD wrap-up timer to 1 minute. The next setting is an enhancement to Release 17 and allows the administrator to set the agent's post-ACD call state. This setting was previously only configurable within the desktop client. However, it can now be managed through the Broadworks web portal. Let's enable this feature and select Wrap Up for the post-call state. This will automatically put agents into a wrap-up state after ending an ACD call. This setting will apply to all agents within this call center. Next, click Apply, and then OK. Now we are ready to assign a phone number and extension to this call center. Start by clicking Addresses. Then select a number from the drop-down list if you are going to assign this call center a direct inward dialed number. This is not a requirement, only an option. Then you would assign an extension to this call center. We do not have any SIP aliases to apply to this call center, so let's just simply click Apply and then OK. Next, we need to assign the agents to the call center. Click on Agents. Then click Search. Since we're creating a standard call center, this will list all users that have either a premium or standard call center license assigned to them within the enterprise. Since call centers can include users from anywhere in the enterprise, you can include agents from any site or group. This allows you to build a call center that includes users that span multiple physical sites or offices. Let's do a last name search for Allison Beeler. Select Allison, then click Add. Next, click Apply, and then OK. You would repeat this process for all agents that need to be assigned to the claims call center. As an enhancement in Release 17, you can also assign users to call centers from the user screen. Let's add Chrissy Rakes as a call center agent to the claims call center, but let's do so by assigning her to that call center from the user page. So start by going to the main profile page for the group and click Users. Let's do a search and select Chrissy Rakes. Next, select Assign Call Centers, and let's look for the Claims Call Center. Select Add. Next, click Apply, and then OK. We have now assigned Chrissy Rakes to the Claims Call Center, but we have done so by assigning it to her through the user page. Now let's go back to setting up our call center. During the profile setup of the call center, we created a password. To reset that password or create a password for the messaging service if assigned to the call center, click Password. The web access password will be needed in this example for the supervisor to be able to monitor the call centers they are assigned to through the desktop client. This password can be a combination of numbers and other characters. The portal password represents the voice portal password associated with this call center. That will be the password assigned to the voicemail box for the call center. You'll want to use digits for this password so people can access it using keys on a phone. To add supervisors, click Supervisors. Then click Search. Since call centers can be monitored from anywhere within the enterprise, you can include supervisors from any site or group. This allows you to build a call center that can be monitored by supervisors that span multiple physical sites, offices, or work from home, and manage remote users. Select the supervisors you want to add, and let's do a last name search for Will Evans. Select Will, and then click Add. As an enhancement in Release 17, you can also assign agents to supervisors from this screen. You can also assign agents to supervisors from the Call Center Supervisors user page. Supervisors can monitor agents from any group within the enterprise. Let's click Assign Agents. And let's do a last name search for Allison Beeler. Select Allison and then click Add. Now Allison is assigned as an agent under Will Evans in the Claims Call Center. Next, click Apply and then OK. Next, click on Announcements. Announcements is a very important section because it reflects the experience of the caller when they reach the call center. The announcement options allow you to enable greetings and hold media for callers when they reach the call center and while they are in queue. There are 4 types of messages or greetings to configure: entrance message, estimated wait message, comfort message, and music or video on hold. Each announcement is optional and can be enabled independently. The first announcement is the entrance message, which is played once the caller reaches the call center or queue. Select the top box if you want an entrance message to be played. The second box, entrance message is mandatory when played, will force the message to always be played to completion when the caller reaches a call center. You have 3 options for specifying the audio announcement that will be played. The first option, Default, is the system's default announcement and will state, "Your call is very important to us. Please wait for the next available agent or press 0 to leave a message," if you have the Escape from Queue option selected. If you do not have the Escape from Queue option selected, callers will hear, "Your call is very important to us. Please wait for the next available agent." The next 2 options are for customized greetings, which most customers will want to enable to provide a personalized experience to the caller. New in Release 17 is the ability to chain multiple files together to create a customized announcement or greeting. What this permits is the reuse of message fragments such as, "Thank you for calling Healthy Solutions," and "You have reached our claims department," and "Our hours of operation this week are," and those message fragments would be combined and played in sequence to create a single greeting or announcement. This feature is available for all announcement types and all call center types. The URL option allows you to point to a server that hosts a custom greeting file or files. You would store the audio files on a server in your network and provide a pointer in this section so that the BroadWorks media server can retrieve the file when it needs to be played. The next option is Custom. We're going to select the Custom option, and for training purposes, 3 messages have already been uploaded to the BroadWorks web portal to enable the use of file chaining. In this example, you can see the first message or fragment is the welcome message, followed by the department, and lastly the hours. These messages or fragments can be used across multiple call centers or various announcement options. Note that there are specific file requirements that need to be met before the file can be uploaded. Please reference the Help section within the BroadWorks portal under the Group Services in the Music Video Hold section. The required file type and compression algorithms are listed there. In both custom options, you can either load or point to a single file or use file chaining. The next message to configure is the estimated wait message. Let's click the Estimated Wait Message tab. There are 2 types of announcements to choose from: Announce Queue Position or announce wait time. Both messages can be configured such that the message is played up to a certain maximum, either number of callers in queue or number of minutes to wait. There is also an option for playing a high call volume message if the queue position or estimated wait time exceeds the maximums of when to play the announcement. For example, if the announce queue position option is selected and the play message for caller's queue position is set to 25 or lower, then the 26th caller in queue will hear a high call volume message if the play high volume message is selected. The same treatment is performed for the announcement of wait time. By default, the estimated wait time is calculated using an average handle time that is derived in BroadWorks. The BroadWorks system administrator sets a default sampling period and size to calculate the average handling time in the system-level call center configuration page. In the event the average handling time cannot be calculated, the default handling time specified on this page will be used to derive the estimated wait time. Let's click Enable Estimated Wait Message for queued calls and keep the Announce Wait Time option selected. And let's set this to 20 minutes or lower and enable Play High Volume Message. And let's leave the default handling time to 5 minutes per call. Then click Apply. The comfort message is the next option or setting to be made for audio announcements within your call center. This is a message that will play periodically while the caller is in queue. Let's click the Comfort Message tab. If it is the only announcement that is enabled, it will be played as soon as the caller reaches the queue. Otherwise, it's played after the music on hold and after the entrance greeting. The time between messages allows you to configure how often the message is played while the callers are in queue. Same as the entrance message, you have 3 options for loading the message file or files. The default greeting, which is the same greeting that is played for the default entrance greeting, retrieving the file from a server via the URL, or uploading a custom greeting. File chaining can also be used for both the URL and custom options. We will select the Play Comfort Message and set the time between messages to 20 seconds. And we're going to use the Custom option with file chaining. 2 files have been preloaded for training purposes. The first is a message fragment notifying customers to have their claim number and account information ready, and the second is a thank you for holding message. These messages will be played in this order as one message. Next, click Apply. The final feature to be addressed in announcements is music or video on hold. Let's click the Music on Hold Message tab. Music on hold in the call center environment can be played in 2 different scenarios. 1, when callers are in queue, or 2, when an agent places them on hold. The Enable Music or Video on Hold for Queued Calls feature is configured in this screen. When an agent puts a call on hold, the user-based Music on Hold file is played back to the caller. It is recommended that this box is checked so that callers know they are waiting in queue. Also within the Music on Hold feature, you have the ability to customize the music on hold for external and internal callers. External audio is played for callers from the outside of the enterprise, and internal audio is played for callers within the enterprise. If you recall from the profile page, you can specify a different codec for the playback of music on hold to external and internal callers, which is typically used to allow for bandwidth savings when the media is played to external callers. File chaining is also available for the Music on Hold announcement feature. And similar to the group-level Music on Hold settings, you can specify an external source for the service, which allows for streaming media, such as an internet radio station or some other continuous media source. Next, let's click Apply, and then OK. Now that we have built our call center, we need to assign the additional services to the call center. Let's click Assign Services. Since we will be provisioning Overflow and Escape from Queue options to route to voicemail, we need to assign messaging to the call center. From here, we can also assign the calling name retrieval service. Let's click Voice Messaging User, Add, and Calling Name Retrieval, Add. Next, let's click Apply, and then OK. We have now assigned a voicemail box to the call center, which will be associated with the extension of the call center. Release 17 includes a new option for assigning a distinctive ring to ACD calls. Let's click Distinctive Ringing. Then, select the type of ring from the drop-down menu. Let's select the long option. And let's enable this feature here. Now the agents will hear this ring type for all ACD calls from this call center. Click Apply and OK. Before moving on to step 4, we need to configure the agent unavailable codes. Let's go back to the main call center page for this group and click Agent Unavailable Codes. This is a new feature in Release 17. Once this feature is configured and enabled, agents may select a reason for changing their agent ACD state to unavailable. Call center managers can use this data to better understand the performance of their agents. This is a setting that will apply to call centers within the group, if enabled, and the codes will be available to all groups and call centers within the enterprise. By enabling this feature, agents will be able to assign themselves unavailable codes from the desktop client. There are 4 unavailable codes that are configured by default, and they are shown on your screen. You cannot edit the name of the code here. However, you can change or edit the description by clicking Edit. You can also add additional unavailable codes. These new codes will also be available for other call centers within other groups within the enterprise. Let's add a code for this group. Click Add. Let's call this code Data Entry. And in the description field, let's type in End of Shift Data Entry. Let's keep this code activated and click OK. Once a code is created and made available to the enterprise, each group can choose to activate or deactivate that code. You have the ability to select the default code to be assigned to unavailable ACD time when an agent has enabled Do Not Disturb, is on a personal call, or has bounced calls. The drop-down menu will provide a list of all the unavailable codes within the enterprise. We will leave the setting at None for all 3 options. Next, let's click Apply and then OK. We are now ready for step 4, the final step in setting up the standard call center for Healthy Solutions. This will cover agent default settings, routing priority settings, and call routing policies. All call centers are set up at the group level. So on this page, you will see all the call centers that have been set up for this group. You can activate and deactivate call centers at any time from this page. First, we're going to take a look at some agent default settings. Let's click Agent Default Settings. The guard timer defines the amount of time between when an agent completes a call and when a new call can be presented to them. It provides a short interval after the completion of a call before a new call will start ringing their device. It is important to point out that the guard timer is different from the wrap-up timer. The guard timer always takes effect immediately after the completion of an ACD call. The wrap-up time is an ACD state used to manage your availability to accept new calls. It may take effect depending on how you configure the feature, but is designed to perform a different function, which is to provide a longer period of time after a call to complete paperwork or other functions. The drop-down represents the number of seconds that will pass before the agent can begin receiving calls. Let's leave this setting at 5 and keep the feature enabled for this group. Next are agent unavailable settings. We have 3 scenarios that we need to set unavailable rules for. The first being Do Not Disturb activation. If this feature is enabled, the agent will be put in an unavailable state if they turn on the Do Not Disturb feature. This will ensure the time to be properly accounted for in the call center reports. Let's leave this feature enabled. The second setting changes the agent's ACD state to unavailable when an agent is taking a personal call. A personal call is defined as an outbound or inbound call that was routed directly to their extension or direct inward dial number. Let's keep this feature disabled because their role will include a combination of direct and ACD calls. The third setting changes the agent's ACD state to unavailable when they fail to answer a certain number of calls that are routed to them, which are referred to as bounced calls. A good example of how this setting is used is when an agent leaves for lunch or forgets to change their ACD state to unavailable. Calls continue to ring their device since they appear to be free. By enabling this feature, they will automatically be changed to unavailable after the first 3 calls aren't answered. You also have the ability to set the number of bounces before the agent is forced into an unavailable state. We will leave this setting at 3. Next, click Apply, and then OK. Next, let's configure the routing priority settings for this group. Click Routing Priority Settings. This screen allows you to define which call to present to an agent when the agent is assigned to multiple call centers and calls are queued against multiple call centers. For example, if Allison was assigned to 2 call centers and calls are queued in each of them, when Allison becomes free, these settings determine which call should be presented first. First is the routing policy option to present the longest waiting call across those call centers. The alternative is to present them based on a specified priority order. If you select priority order, then the order specified in this section below will define which call gets presented, with the calls in the higher priority call center being presented before the lower priority call center. The list includes all the call centers within the enterprise, since users can be assigned to call centers that are in any group in the enterprise. In our example, if Allison was assigned to both the claims and the referrals call center, and claims had a priority of 1 and referrals a priority of 2, when Allison becomes free, she will be presented a call from claims, regardless of how long the callers waiting for referrals have been waiting. For this example, we're going to use the longest wait time. Let's click Apply and OK. Continuing on step 4, we need to address the overflow policy as well as bounce calls and stranded call handling, 2 features that are available in both standard and premium call centers, but not basic. Let's start with the overflow settings. Let's click the Claims Call Center and select Routing Policies. Next, select Overflow. Overflow rules come into play when a pre-configured overflow threshold is met, meaning either the overflow timer or when the queue length is exceeded. In this case, that is 50. Once either of those overflow thresholds are met, there are 3 different actions that can be configured to handle the overflowed calls. The first is to perform busy treatment. This will follow the call forward busy settings that have been configured for the call center. If you have the call forwarding busy service assigned and activated, the call will be forwarded to the specified destination. If you have the messaging service assigned and activated to send busy calls to voicemail, the call will be routed to the call center's voicemail box. If both are assigned and activated, the call forward busy service will take precedence over voice messaging. If neither of the services are assigned, the caller will get a busy tone. The next option is to immediately transfer the call to another destination, which could be to another call center, a specific directory number or extension, or any external number. You can also include feature access codes in the destination numbers, which can be used to immediately route the call into a user's voicemail box. The final option is to play ringing to the caller until they hang up. While not common, in some environments you may want to use this option. Next, you can set the overflow timer, which is the number of seconds a call will remain in the queue before the overflow treatment is activated. And finally, you have the option to play an announcement before sending the call to the overflow destination. This would apply to any of the treatments that you configured above. If you choose to announce, then you can either use the default setting or upload a custom message, similar to the announcement services. For this training exercise, we want all overflow calls to go to the call center's voicemail. So we'll enable the busy treatment. We just need to ensure that the messaging settings are set to send all busy calls to voicemail. We are not going to enable the play announcement before overflow processing, but we will enable overflow after calls wait for 2 minutes. Then click Apply and OK. Next up, bounced calls. Let's click on Bounced Calls. As mentioned earlier in this video, bounced calls are calls that are presented to an agent that is signed in and available, however, are not answering. In the standard call center, you can select the number of rings a caller will hear before the call bounces back to the queue and begin searching for the next available agent. You can also select to bounce calls immediately back to the queue if an agent becomes unavailable while a call is being presented to them. It's important to understand that bounce calls are placed back to the top of the queue because they have the longest wait time. Let's set this to 3 rings and enable this feature. Let's also enable bounce calls if agent becomes unavailable while routing the call. New to Release 17 is the ability to alert an agent's device if a call that they have received has been placed on hold for longer than a specified amount of time. Let's set this to 45 seconds and enable this feature. Note that there are specific configurations that need to be made with the user's handset in order for this feature to be deployed. Please contact your BroadSoft representative for questions regarding CPE configuration requirements. The next option is to bounce calls back to the queue after they have been on hold for a specified amount of time. This feature is also new to Release 17. Let's enable this feature and keep the setting at 60 seconds. Next, click Apply and then OK. Moving on to stranded calls. Click on Stranded Calls. As defined previously, a stranded call is a call in a queue that has no agents currently staffed. An agent is said to be staffed in a queue if the agent has joined the queue and is not in the sign-out state. When the last agent staffed in a queue signs out of the queue, then all calls that are currently waiting in the queue become stranded. The handling options include leaving the call in the queue, applying the busy treatment that is configured for the call center, or transferring the call to a specified number. We're going to route stranded calls to voicemail, so let's select the Perform Busy treatment, which will route the calls to the voicemail box for the call center. Be sure to select the Send Busy Calls to Voicemail in the messaging settings. Next, let's click Apply and then OK. That wraps up the 4-step process for configuring a standard call center. It's important to test your call flow prior to go live to ensure a smooth transition upon installation.